Dr. Kapitsky. How are you? Good evening. I'm coming to you to present to you my video presentation on my research paper, which was on childhood and adolescent obesity. Basically, I really found that writing this paper brought a lot of insights to me. It was a very interesting topic. There was so much information on it, and I didn't realize how big of a public health issue childhood obesity was. I read up that childhood and adolescent obesity has been around for years now, probably since the 60s, and it's been a huge, huge epidemic ever since. And all it's doing now is rising in numbers and transcending cross cultures, ethnic groups, and it's becoming a bigger issue than I think anybody has ever imagined. I really enjoyed doing this paper. There was a lot of information on it. It wasn't too difficult finding information on this topic, um, and it was very interesting. And I want to share a little bit with you on what I had talked about in my paper. Um, Before I start, I wanted to say that I divided my paper into 16 different subgroups. It was a little easier for me to do that, whereas than just writing a paper on just everything that I can find. So I divided into 16 different groups, and you will see that when you see my paper. Um, I found that a little easier. But I first want to say that obesity, I wanted to say, is the definition of obesity. I feel like people might not know what the real definition is. People might think obesity, oh, it's just a big person, it's a fat person. But the definition of obesity is basically an excessive amount of body fat that is usually 20% more than his or her body fat. Obesity is measured um, by the body mass index, and that's usually called the BMI. A person is considered overweight, not obese, but overweight when their BMI is between 25 and 29.9, and they're considered obese now if they're over 30. I don't know my BMI, but I feel like that's a big number. If a person is considered overweight if they're over 25 and 29. But that's just me. I also wanted to say the main factors that contribute to obesity, I feel as though the main factors are eating more calories than what's consumed in a day. And I know me, um, calories is kind of hard to count in a day. It's hard. So I can see where a lot of people will say, well, why would I count calories in a day? But it's over consuming more calories in a day and not exercising to burn them off. So when you consume more calories and you don't burn it off, you gain weight. Um, I feel the other health related factors that lead to obesity is one's age, gender, genetics, environmental factors, such as behavioral lifestyle, physical activities, psychological factors such as stress or depression, illnesses, and medications. These are all factors that contribute to childhood and adolescent obesity. Um, also, Childhood and adolescent obesity um, is a huge public health issue, like I said, and it's a problem in society today. Um, childhood obesity, doesn't directly link to these diseases, but it indirectly links to these diseases when a child progresses into adulthood. And these diseases will be coronary heart disease, hypertension, which is extremely common today in our country, um, metabolic syndrome, ovarian syndrome, and thyroid disease. And these diseases are not prevalent in children, but can show up in their later years. If they continue to be overweight by not preventing or controlling their behaviors through healthy living, healthy lifestyles, um, eating healthy, exercising, stuff like that. Um, Something interesting was in the 21st century today, obesity is the leading health problem in the United States, and I'm not surprised because the food that we eat is terrible. A lot of people, I feel like spend more time and more money on going out to eat fast food restaurants, taking out to goes, not packing lunch, but doing school lunches, which have high salt and sodium, um, high fat content. And I feel like I can understand why the United States is the leading health problem in obesity. Um, Also, obesity, I found out, is linked to over 30 health problems today, and most of them are life threatening. Um, Also, 17% of children and adolescents aged 2 to 19 years were overweight in 2004. Um, that's ridiculous. It's really, really, really ridiculous. When I was looking into the health department, they say that they have estimated that 300,000 deaths a year are associated with childhood obesity. Well, with obesity in its entirety, not childhood obesity, but in that year, 2000 alone, obesity cost the nation $117 million. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say, that we need to come back and think about how important, how serious a public health issue obesity is. It's taking a lot of money out of our pockets, as well as it's killing a lot of people. If we target now and have our children eat healthy and exercise, then we can prevent a lot for later on in their lives. I feel as though today's children are the first generation in history that may die at an earlier age than their parents, just because of how the economy is, how a lot of school programs are set up. I feel like today's children may die at a younger age because of obesity. The occurrence of childhood obesity has doubled among children aged 2 to 5, has tripled with adolescents aged 6 to 11, and has tripled with a young adult aged 12 to 19. I believe that um, a lot has to do with the parents' behavioral lifestyles that contributes to the child's obesity. Um, I feel like a parent is a leader, and a parent is a role model in the house and outside the house. And the child will do what the parent does. If a parent packs the child's lunch, the child's going to eat what the parent packs them. Or when a child comes home and wants dinner or wants a snack, the parent is going to be the one to give the child either a cookie or apple. The environment that the child is brought up in is also a huge contribution contributing factor to obesity. If a child is raised in an environment where there's no playgrounds, recreation centers, they're going to be more likely to be at home playing video games, um, at home just sitting around instead of being outside exercising. So a lot of times, a child's environment is also a huge contribution to obesity. Um, there are no physical participants that I did in this research. I basically just looked up a lot of my research online and through databases. The age ranges that I found, my research were between the ages 3 to 19 in my study. Um, the information wasn't difficult to find, like I said. I found that a lot of information was straightforward, and it targeted the age range that I wanted my data set, which was age 2 to 19, so 3 to 19. Um, there were no stimuli that I used as well in the study. Um, the One of the statistics I found that I wanted to point out to you was the state Virginia has a childhood obesity rate of 15.2%, ranking it 23 in the country. Um, they are not the most obese state, but the numbers are still rising in the state and have been taken seriously. And there are a lot of strategies and preventions that Virginia is doing to prevent childhood obesity, which I found that is great. But it's actually really sad to find out that this state is ranking 15.2%, and it's number 23 in this country. Um, that's pretty sad. I also wanted to know 56 to 85% of children consume soda on a given day. Um, as much as I hate soda, it's sad to see that children who are younger than me are drinking soda on a given day. 56 to 85%. Some of the trends that I found, the years 1994 to 1996, only 2% of children met the food guide pyramid serving recommendations for all five food groups. Only 2% met the food group in 1994 to 1996. I can't even imagine what it is now. Um, they I looked up and I found a lot of studies saying there was no significant trend in obesity prevalence for any age group in particular. I have a lot of tables and charts in my papers to kind of show the obesity change over time um, as well. Um, some of the contributing factors that I've noted that are probably the main factors why there are childhood and adolescent obesity is the lack of physical activity um, on a child, as well as a lot of people might not understand, but a lot of children put on weight during puberty, and they put on weight when they are beginning to grow and fit in, just grow into being an adolescent or into a young adult. So a lot of people don't understand children do get bigger when they're going through puberty. That still doesn't take away the fact that there are obese children, but that is a contributing factor. Um, the child's diet is also another huge contributing factor. Parents and schools, I feel like, are fully responsible for a child's eating behaviors, as well. All right, I have 4 minutes left. Um, 1 out of 3 children are obese or overweight before their fifth birthday, and that's really sad. The Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, has said that. According to the 2009 Pediatric Nutrition Surveillance System, 1/3 of the 3.7 million low income children that are 2 to 4 years old were obese or overweight, and 541,000 were just obese. And you find a lot. I realized you find a lot of high rates in obesity among children who were brought up in low income families, poverty, simply because there's a lack of access to healthcare, healthy foods, opportunities, physical activities. I explained a lot of that more in my paper as well. One thing I also noticed, sleeping patterns are different with obese children. Obese children sleeping patterns are different because they get less sleep, which increases their appetite more. Whereas children who aren't obese get more sleep, and which decreases their appetite. That was kind of interesting to note as well. There are a lot of obesity cross cultures. I have a lot of charts talking about that as well. One of the correlations that I have to type 2 diabetes, obesity is closely related to type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes has tripled in children in the past 5 years. The prevalence of overweight are among ethnic and minority populations, but type 2 diabetes is closely related to adolescent and childhood obesity. Mm. Um, Also, one of the programs that I've noted a lot of programs that have targeted childhood and adolescent obesity, but one program that I liked was Virginia Action for Healthy Kids. This program works to improve the health and education performance of children through nutrition classes, physical activities in their schools. There are a lot of programs like this as well that I noted, but this program operates under the Virginia Cooperative Extension, which involves state agencies and private organizations, which includes like the Virginia Health Department, the Department of Education, the American Heart Association. There are a lot of things in this state that are trying to target obesity and decrease the rates and help families and the children itself to get back into a healthy life. So I respect that, and I thought that was a really good um, way that the government is trying to help. Also, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation is a really wonderful organization. They have a lot on their website, and they are nationally known philanthropy that is huge across this nation, and they improve healthcare, but they mostly target childhood obesity, and I found that was really interesting. Um, and real quick, in 2000, the direct cost of obesity was $117 billion. That was huge. Um, Policymakers, I feel like the only thing that we need to do to end childhood obesity is to increase physical activity, increase fruit and vegetables consumptions, reduce energy drinks, and high sugary foods in one's diet, and increase breastfeeding. They say that breastfeeding decreases obesity. I found that was kind of interesting as well. So those were some things that I wanted to note in for my paper. I think I'm about to run out of time. I'm not sure, but I hope that kind of gave you understanding of what my paper was about. I enjoy doing it, and I hope you enjoy reading my paper as well. All right.